I'm Mandy Friedman, and today we're going to talk about 5 reasons why recovery feels lonely. Gosh, everybody says this. It's like you wake up from some sort of a storm, right, and come outside and everybody's gone. It's kind of, par for the course when you are recovering from abuse, that as you learn, grow, change, and adapt, all of a sudden the people that you thought were your people, maybe not so much now, right? Some are still, absolutely, but you find that your way of life, your lifestyle, your decision making, who you surround yourself with, what you spend your time doing, may not have been in your best interest. And it took you learning about abusive relationships, toxic personalities, to discover that, oh, no wonder I feel like shit all the time. I'm surrounded by people that don't treat me very nice. They put me down. They don't affirm me. They don't actually listen or hear me. They mischaracterize me. And I don't want to live this way anymore. So one of the things that we talk about in terms of setting boundaries and creating distance would be no contact and gray rock. So you might start to use the gray rock method a little bit more with people that you thought you had an intimate relationship with, and then you realize actually that you didn't. So what happens is a lot of times people come in and they're talking about one person when they start coming in for consultation, SNAP consultation, or taking the SNAP classes, is they're thinking, oh, my mother was a narcissist, or, I had a narcissistic husband, or I'm trying to get out of an abusive situation. And you start learning through the SNAP program about the different tactics and techniques that abusers use and manipulators use. You learn about you and why it is that toxic and abusive people seek you out and target you. You learn about the abusive and manipulative relationships themselves and what those look like and the different patterns that we can see. And then we learn about recovery and how we have to set boundaries now and create some distance with toxic and abusive people. So you learn all these things, and then you look around and go, oh my gosh, that person, that person, that person, that person. But you know what? I'm the common denominator here, right? So maybe I'm the problem. Well, you are the common denominator, that's true. But what has happened is you have been shaped and molded into someone that's very enticing to abusive and manipulative people because you were raised in a household that was abusive and manipulative. Some of the most impactful and important relationships in your life may have been with someone who is a toxic and abusive person. And you're just now realizing that. So because you've been shaped and molded by manipulative people, yeah, you're right. You are the common denominator. But also you have sort of created a life, a lifestyle, social network, and familial dynamics that are not healthy for you. And you're starting to learn that. So sort of like you wake up and find out that you're surrounded when you're learning about these things, and you start to feel kind of lonely when you realize that you're going to have to make some changes to your personal life in terms of who you're hanging out with and spending time with. So let's talk about the 5 reasons why recovery can feel pretty darn lonely, okay? One is that people don't understand your experiences. It's really hard to find someone that gets it. And so even the most well-meaning person who maybe they're not a toxic or manipulative person, but they're just unaware because they've never had this type of experience in their life. And you find yourself feeling like when you try to talk to this person, like that they're saying things to you like, well, like they say, you only have one set of parents, you only have one mom. or, it's not physically abusive, so maybe you guys could go to couples counseling. My husband and I went to couples counseling and it really helped. Maybe you guys could do that too. So they're really trying to help you, but at the same time, you just feel like, wow, like nobody gets it. Even this person who knows me so well is kind of trying to talk me out of my reality. So as you'll notice that as you have this new information and you try to share it with people in your life, they're gonna kind of look at you like you're crazy a little bit. And so welcome to my world. It is lonely. So you will have a hard time connecting with people who don't get it. So you find yourself not fully being yourself with those people anymore, and you're sort of withholding and holding back and not really saying everything that you're thinking or feeling, because you don't want to get hurt when that person says something that is not affirming. Or you might get confused as you try to continue relationships with people who have always had your back and always been in your circle. All of a sudden you're feeling like that person is treating you different. Well, they might be treating you different because they just don't get it. And we kind of can't expect them to get it either, because as you recall from your own experiences, that this is something that you really do have to have had firsthand experience with it to really understand it. So the first reason is that a lot of people don't get it. And so that can make you feel lonely. Number two is, you're going to have to be a lot more selective about who you allow to have intimate access to you and be in your inner circle. So in becoming more selective, that means that there aren't as many people to choose from when you are rebuilding your network or your bubble or your circle, whatever you want to call it. It's going to take some time, because now we are about quality, not quantity, right? So in order for someone to have intimate access, they really truly do need to have earned that spot and shown you over the course of time that their behaviors are healthy. So in a way, you sort of have to vet someone and make sure that they are a healthy person for you, and that can take some time. So as we're more selective, there's less and less people to choose from. The third reason why recovery feels lonely is that recovery is a solitary journey. It just is. You have your support system, hopefully. Not everybody does. So if you don't have one and you're really truly alone, you're not alone. There's lots of people that once they try to get out of there, or once they accomplish getting out of the abusive relationship, they are alone. So you're not alone in that. It's a solitary journey. I talk about this a lot in sessions. I watch a lot of TV. So I see, different characters or storylines or situations on television that illustrate some of the SNAP themes and topics really well. And one of them is Star Trek Discovery. It's on CBS on the app, but there's a scene where the main character has to break up with her boyfriend. And, he is at this point where he's ready to start his own recovery, and she's on the other side of recovery. So things happen to him, and he realizes that he needs to embark upon this journey, and he's thinking they're going to stay together. And, she gives him this talk, and it's just beautiful, and describes how that, on her journey, she had to do it alone to get where she is in that moment. And she knew from experience that their relationship would not last or would not be healthy if she was trying to stick around to make his journey softer and easier. Recovery, whether you're recovering from drugs and alcohol addiction, or you're recovering from, abuse or an abusive relationship, or a traumatic event, a lot of times we have to do it alone, right? Because we have to be doing it for ourselves. We have to seek our resources and be motivated and invest in our recovery. And that's something that's a very individual and personal decision that you make. And so it does become solitary. That's just kind of the way it is. Let's see. The fourth reason is that we are going to spend a lot more time doing self-care now. So that means that you're going to be saying no to other things. You're going to say no to social events. Okay, so for example, it's the holiday season right now, and there's all kinds of options for how you're going to spend your time during the holidays. And some of you might have changed it up this year and spent less time doing the holiday stuff and continued on with your routine of self-care, despite the fact that it's the holidays, right? Well, when everybody else is attending the events and parties and gatherings and you're not, right? That feels lonely when you're saying, no, I'm sorry, I can't go to that because that's the day that I sleep in, or no, I can't do that because that's the day that I go to the chiropractor, or that's the day that I'm going to go to the doctor, and you're still prioritizing your self-care. There are people that are not going to be supportive of those decisions. They're not going to understand why you would choose to go to the gym instead of going to the movies with them, right? And they might get a little hurt by that. But when you start to prioritize self-care, next thing you know, your social life is a little bit less busy, right? Just from that aspect of recovery. So that's the fourth reason why recovery can feel lonely. And the fifth reason why recovery can feel lonely is because, the part where you're trying to find your peers is hard. So when you are first doing your research on these topics, you might go online and see that there aren't that many people in your area, say, for example, that treat narcissistic abuse. If you go onto Psychology Today and just type in narcissistic abuse, as you do that research, you're going to find that there's not that much out there in terms of you being able to physically go and be with someone, whether it's a professional or friends or some sort of a support group. We want to find our peers, and that's one way we can feel like we're not as alone. And really the message here is that you're not alone. You feel alone, but there are other people that are on the path too, and they're walking it in a solitary manner too, right? So you're not alone. It's just the journey is lonely. It's how it feels. Recovery feels like guilt, shame, loneliness, confusion, and grief. And a lot of times what we do is we take those feelings that are bad feelings and we see them as being evidence that we're making the wrong choice. You look around, there's nobody left, you ain't got nobody, and you feel like crap. And you think, God, what is wrong with me? But that's just how it feels, right? So we have to start getting comfortable with those feelings of ickiness and depression and anger, confusion, grief. We have to just get real cozy with those feelings. That's just how it feels. It's not evidence that you're doing something wrong. Let me look and just make sure that I've covered everything I wanted to. Oh, yeah. So what can happen when you feel lonely in recovery is, and if you start taking those feelings as a sign that you're doing something wrong, then you start making some poor choices for yourself in terms of softening your boundaries or breaking no contact or continuing to spend time with toxic people or seeking an emotional connection with toxic people. And then you get disappointed over and over when they continue to hurt you. And that just sort of feeds that negative self-talk that we're doing. And it doesn't help, right? It makes you feel worse. So the loneliness can make you sort of take a detour off the path. And I see people do that a lot. Sometimes those detours are necessary because they teach us little lessons. So you think, yeah, there were all kinds of red flags with that person, but, maybe I saw it wrong, or maybe it'll be different this time, or I'll just set firmer boundaries this time, it'll be fine. And so you give them an inch, basically. And then when they're taking a mile, you're like, damn it. I knew this and here I am. How did I get here? Oh, I was lonely. That's what it was. I was lonely and I couldn't stand the feeling of being lonely. So getting comfortable with these difficult emotions is one of the most important things about your journey of recovery, including loneliness. So that's it for the 5 reasons. I do suggest that you find your peers as much as you can online, especially. There's lots of groups on Facebook that you can join. We have a Snap group on Facebook you can join. All right. Have a good day.